So in today's video, we're going to unpack the 7 most important things that you should be doing right now to support your body's immune system health. And I'm talking about the long haul. I'm not going to talk about in this video taking vitamin C, zinc, selenium, or elderberry. Okay. While all those things can be helpful in acute situations, and if you have an overt zinc deficiency, zinc supplementation can be great. But in this video, we're going to unpack the things that you should be doing every single day. The choices that you make right now, tonight when you go to bed, tomorrow when you wake up, can really impact your body's immune system. Now, why make this video right now? Well, the economies are reopening. Very soon, your state or your country will be reopening. The chances of increasing your exposure to potentially lethal pathogens is going to be much higher. So there's things that you could and should be doing right now to make sure that your immune system response, your body's ability to make antibodies, your body's ability to fight viruses and other pathogens and bacteria is at its peak and very optimal levels. So we're going to unpack those scientific strategies. But first, I want to thank our show sponsor, Skillshare.com. This video is brought to you by them. I'm a huge fan of this company because they offer a range of courses where you can learn a bunch of different things, everything from how I made my very first YouTube thumbnail. I learned how to make Photoshop on Skillshare.com back in 2012. I also learned how to edit videos, but you can learn how to make your own merchandise, your own t-shirts. If you want to start your own clothing line, if you want to start a new business, for example, and learn finance or learn graphic design, there's a bunch of different tools and solutions that they offer on their website. The most exciting course that they're offering right now that I think is very timely is Productivity by Greg McKeown. He's the author of Essentialism, which is a book on my shelf right there that's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't yet read it, you definitely got to check it out. But as a listener and viewer of High Intensity Health, guess what? You can get a free 2-month unlimited access membership over at Skillshare.com. After that, it's less than $10 a month, depending upon your membership level. But they have a great app that you can use on your phone, DIY courses. And you can actually see how many people and how many students are enrolled in courses. So you know if it's really good or not. But they have amazing content, friends. Definitely check them out over at Skillshare.com. And also there's a link below. If you use that link, again, you get unlimited access for their free 2-month membership. So definitely check it out. Okay, so let's get into the strategies. Now, as we dive into this video might be 12, 15 minutes, depending upon how quickly we get through this. What I'm going to do is flash up images here. You can take screenshots of the studies that we're going to be talking about. Look, I have tons of articles. This immunology is something that is so fascinating to me, and I just want to share this with you. So let's just get right into it, and I'll list them below and the timestamps below as well. The first thing that I think is the most important thing that you can do right now, okay, is improve your body composition, and that means lose body fat. Why? Because body fat is basically a sponge for a range of different immune cells, from B cells that make antibodies, from T helper cells, to macrophages, to monocytes, all sorts of cells. I was going to say univariant natural killer cells. Pretty much every single immune cell that you can quantify under a microscope is found in increased quantities in fat tissue. Now, we don't know what's the chicken or the egg, but to make a long story short, fat tissue is very inflamed. The more inflamed you are, there's more noise, more ambient background noise, and your body can't really elicit a proper and early and robust immune response when it really matters, when you're exposed to a pathogen. Look no further than the data from Wuhan, China, data from Italy, data from New York. Obese people and overweight people are more likely to be hospitalized. They're more likely to have increased disease severity, and they're more likely to go on a ventilator. Why is that? Probably because their ambient level of background inflammation is much higher. So this virus that's really adept at getting into cells and replicating very quick was able to go under the radar undetected because of all the ambient background noise. So the easiest thing that you can do that I would suggest to improve your body composition is a combination of, we're going to talk about it in this video, fasted exercise, exercise in general, compressing your feeding window, eating 1 meal a day, and improving your diet, eating a low-carb ketogenic style diet. So those are the things we're going to unpack, but improving your body composition is really important. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, change your diet, okay? So we know from many different studies, people that have poor blood sugar regulation, these are diabetics, these are people with pre-diabetes. Well, guess what? They have increased propensity to develop infections. They have poor recovery from elective procedures, surgical procedures. They have increased disease severity when it comes to influenza virus. And also, guess what? This novel human coronavirus, right? Diabetes is a very common complication that's linked with increased morbidity, mortality, ICU time. So you need to improve your blood sugar. Well, how do you do that? What's the easiest way to do that? Cut out the crap in your diet. You don't have to be full-blown keto, but eating a lower carb style diet can really improve your body's blood sugar homeostasis and balance. Now, of course, exercise ties into that, and does sleep, which we're going to get into all these things. As you see, everything that we're talking about in this video, these 7 strategies to improve your immunity, feed on each other and play on each other. They're multi-directional. So improve your blood sugar health. Now, you might wonder, okay, do I have a blood sugar problem? Well, I don't really know. Test your blood sugar levels. You can go to nutrisense.io. I'll put links below. You can do a 14-day trial for around $140, and you can get a continuous glucose monitor to see if the diet changes that you're making are moving the pendulum or the needle in terms of better regulation on your blood sugar. So you can check that out, or just go to a Walgreens or Rite Aid. Just get a glucometer. They're all of $27, friends. You should be doing this. We all should be doing this. We know from other studies where just a short-term increase in sugar consumption, like 70 grams of a glucose burden from, say, drinking a soda pop, really negatively affects the immune system. This was one study that I'll throw up on the screen. It was really profound. The neutrophils and T helper cells and T lymphocytes were all decreased by just having a bolus of sugar, which is pretty scary because a lot of people are having this big bolus all the time. So changing your body composition, changing your diet, eating a low-carb diet. Now, we've talked about the ketogenic diet before and its effects on the immune system function. We know in animal models, this is mice, Yale scientists have figured out that a ketogenic diet does elicit a better interferon response. Interferon is your body's primary innate immune system cytokine molecule that helps to prevent viruses from getting into your cells and replicating. So this could be potentially helpful. We don't have this data in humans, but I'm in favor of having people go on a low-carb keto diet because we know it's good for weight loss, okay? Okay, now let's talk about exercise. Exercise is bi-directional. It's going to make the effects of your diet better. It's also going to help fasting in your feeding window better as well. And guess what? It also helps your immune system. People that exercise regularly, they get a lot more benefits when it comes to enhancing autophagy. Autophagy is one of these intracellular cleanup processes that's also involved in getting rid of pathogens like viruses and bacteria. So exercise is really important because it also helps you to enhance your sleep. Sleep is one of the 7 things we're going to talk about soon, but there's a bi-directional system. The more consistent people are with their exercise, the better their sleep is. The better their sleep is, the more robust their immune system is. So exercise is a really important foundation to this whole thing. We have other videos, other courses on the optimal strategies when it comes to exercise, but I recommend my clients hit their upper body twice a week and lower body twice a week. You can do this at home. I break it out very simply. Upper body pull, lower body pull. So lower body pull is like more of the posterior chains, your glutes, your hamstrings, calves, things like that, okay? Lower body push would be more squat based, more quadricep based, more frontal plane of the body. And upper body pull would be more back work. So you're doing, pull-ups, rows, things like that. Okay, so we're not going to get into that in a bunch of detail in this video, but just know that exercise is very important. Try to at least do 20 minutes of walking every day. And look, exercise helps balance your blood sugar, okay? So if you do happen to have a cheat meal, a meal that's high in carbohydrates, you can go for a brisk walk. It will bring that glucose level down quite nicely. Okay, so changing your body composition, changing your diet, starting to exercise. Well, what about your feeding, fasting patterns? We know that a chronically elevated or expressed mTOR from eating and snacking all the time can create more background inflammation. Remember, too much background noise is going to decrease your body's innate immune system's ability to really sense and then create an adaptive immune response to pathogens. So it's very important that you compress your feeding pattern. If you've never done any fasting, I recommend clients to start out fasting for 12 hours a day. Just keep it super simple. Remember, stop eating at 9 p.m. Don't have any other food until 9 a.m. As you can, improve your metabolic flexibility, you can open this up to maybe an OMAD or maybe a 16-8, or you're fasting for 20 hours a day, eating in a 4-hour period. Whatever it is, you need some level of feeding window compression. Very important. Okay. We talked about the importance of sleep. We talked about the importance of exercise and how exercise facilitates sleep. So let's dive into sleep in a little bit more depth. There's been quite a few studies that have actually shown that when individuals have perturbed sleep, the next day, their body's immune system, it has reduced ability to, sense and destroy and phagocytize pathogens. We know that when individuals improve their sleep in a 1-week window before getting a vaccine, the vaccine is much more effective. So there's a lot of really good data showing that sleep is very protective for the immune system in a bunch of different capacities. And we also know that inflammation negatively affects sleep, being sedentary negatively affects sleep, having poor blood sugar issues negatively affects sleep. So all these things feed into improving sleep, and sleep is where actually from a circadian rhythm standpoint, your immune system is really functioning optimally during sleeping time. This is when your body's repairing. So sleep is very important. It's not just the total sleep duration. It depends on two things: how you breathe during your sleep and when you go to sleep and when you wake up. Let's talk about that first, circadian biology. And I'm just going to bucket this within the sleep narrative. So very important that you don't sometimes go to bed at 2 a.m. and sometimes go to bed at 8. You want to be consistent when you fall asleep and when you wake up. This is called proper sleep hygiene. You don't want to have what's called social jet lag. That is, sometimes you go to bed at 8 p.m., sometimes you go to bed at 2 a.m, maybe on the weekends. So you want to be consistent with your body's circadian clock system, because everything from neurotransmitters that affect how you think, how you feel, your mood, your well-being, your mental state, to your immune system, various levels of cytokines, they're released on a consistent circadian rhythm basis. So when you're constantly having ebbs and flows in sleep-wake cycles and your circadian rhythm is off, well, then you're going to have issues within your immune system. So important to keep that in mind, minimize blue light exposure, invest in a pair of blue light blocking glasses if you don't have them already. So very important. Now, how you breathe during your sleep affects your body's sleep quality. That too is very important. If you haven't yet started mouth taping, I would recommend starting that. We know that sleep disorder breathing augments or affects in a negative way leptin. Leptin is very intimately involved in the immune system. Hyperleptinemia and dysfunctional leptin signaling creates inflammation. So again, this is all related. Body fat releases leptin. So we're weaving in and covering a lot of topics we've already sort of talked about. So I think it's important that all these things sing together. It's not just about your diet. It's not just about exercise. So mouth taping can help prevent sleep disorder breathing. Obviously, go back to the interviews we did with Dr. Stasha Golmanek, Mark Brahenna, and some of the other specialists, Stephen Lin, about the importance of proper nose breathing while you're sleeping and mouth taping. So those are very important. Now, let's talk about temperature and thermal stress. Okay, this is very, very important. A lot of people don't realize that the temperature and having a little bit of cold exposure affects levels of brown adipose tissue and how brown fat is involved in the immune system. So I recommend people get some sort of cold thermogenesis, some sort of cold shower, some sort of cold plunge, jump in a cold river, jump in the ocean, get cold intentionally, okay? That will actually improve your body's blood sugar regulation. Again, going back to tip number 2, your diet, how that affects immunology. But brown adipose tissue is intimately involved in various aspects of immune system function. So it's very important. I take a cold plunge every day. You guys, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know that we've talked about this, how important cold thermogenesis is. I'm proud to say that I did this all winter long. I never got sick. Everyone else in my family did, and they didn't go in the cold plunge. So I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying the things that I do improved my body's immune system health, okay? So keep that in mind. Taking a cold shower, building a cold tank. We have do-it-yourself videos on how to make a cold tank. You can go to a Tractor Supply store. You can get a 110-gallon, like a horse trough, get your hose and pour it in there, throw some ice in there, and off you go. This is more of an advanced strategy. I would start out with just taking a cold shower first thing in the morning. It's not going to hurt anything. If anything else, it's going to increase circulation, okay? Which similarly to exercise. Moving your lymphatic system is very important. Stagnant lymph is linked with inflammation. Again, going back to the obesity and all that. Chronic inflammation, reduces your immune system's ability to differentiate signal from noise. Now, the last tip that we're going to talk about is stress management. Again, it's going to go into all these things it's going to affect your food choices and your diet. The more resiliency and control that you have over your body's stress response, the more you're going to have better control of sleep, the more that you're going to have better control over, for example, your diet choices and everything along those lines. So this is very important for your immune system as well. And part of stress management is not just meditation, it's breath work. We haven't yet had Wim Hof on the show, but we've talked a lot about breath work with Aaron Alexander and Josh Trent, recent podcasts that I'll link below that can be very helpful for you. So your breath and having control over your breath and a little bit of hyperventilation followed by retention, also known as boxed breathing. It goes something like this. So I do 25 called warrior breaths. That's what Josh Trent calls them. And then after that, you hold. Okay, you hold as long as you can. And that hyperventilation, that warrior breath, followed by the retention, what that does, it affects your body's parasympathetic nervous system response. And this has actually been clinically studied by folks in Europe that have looked at Wim Hof students compared to controls that didn't do his breathwork intervention. And guess what? They actually showed that when they had the individuals do the breath work and they injected a very pro-inflammatory bacterial fragment called endotoxin, lipopolysaccharide or LPS, into the bloodstream of both of those arms of the study, the control group that didn't do any of the Wim Hof training and the group that did Wim Hof, I think it was 8 weeks of Wim Hof training, guess what? Their immune system in the group that did the breath work was much more robust, and they didn't have nearly as many symptoms of this pro-inflammatory bacterial particulate called endotoxin. And also, they were able to mitigate the cytokine release, okay? So I think it's really important to keep in mind, and everything that's going on in this COVID-19 pandemic, we need to understand that part of what is causing a lot of harm for people is the over-exaggerated or over-exuberant immune system response. It's not necessarily the virus, it's the cytokines that are created in response to the virus. So some people that have accelerated aging of their immune system or lack of immune system regulation or resilience, maybe from lack of breath work or meditation or mindfulness practices, we don't know. We don't have that data yet. But we know that we do have volitional control over our body's immune system response. And part of that is through our mind, which can be trained through the breath. So it's very important for you to do some sort of breath work practice or mindfulness meditation practice. We've had Dan Harris on the podcast before. I would recommend checking that show out if you want to learn more about meditation. I practice insight meditation. And let me give you a little tip, because the meditation people seemingly don't talk with the breathwork people and vice versa. After years of struggling to integrate a very consistent and regular meditation practice, I found that if I do my breath work, the hyperventilation and holding and box breathing, then I meditate, guess what? I'm much more successful in having a calm feeling, a relaxed feeling, and as you might be able to tell, my mood and my level of sympathetic nervous system tone has actually decreased by just doing those few breaths. It's that powerful. So again, if you've struggled to calm down the mental chatter and all that, because psychological stress, financial stress, all the uncertainty that's associated with this entire situation right now really can negatively affect your immune system response. There's been a lot, actually, here's one example that comes to mind. This was an example of individuals that did a clinical study on sun-theanine. L-theanine calms down the mind. And they had these individuals walk across a very precarious bridge in the study. And what they found is the people that took L-theanine beforehand, and the group that took L-theanine before walking across this bridge had an increase in secretory IgA, which is an immunoglobulin that has some protective, virulent neutralization capacities to prevent pathogens from causing issues in your body. So your mindset and your stress are really important. And again, to weave it back into everything that we're talking about, breathing before you have an urge to say go to McDonald's, or an urge to say to mindlessly consume food, or an urge to say watch Netflix and so forth. If you get more in tune with your breath, more in tune with your body, and intentionally change your body's immune system and parasympathetic nervous system response, then maybe you can surmount that urge and have more control and willpower, and that will create more momentum and more progress in your life. So that's really important. Check out the book by Dan Brule, Just Breathe, the interviews that we did with Dan Harris, with Aaron Alexander, and Josh Trent. Those can be very helpful. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And again, your body composition, your diet, your exercise, your feeding fasting pattern, your body's stress management response, taking a cold plunge, and also within that thermal stress category, I forgot to mention, is sauna therapy. Sauna is kind of on the other side of the spectrum compared to cold thermogenesis, but sauna and temperature stress in general, extreme cold, extreme hot, have a very favorable effect on the immune system. So keep all that stuff in mind, balance your blood sugar, and breathe. Manage your breath, and taking some breaths before you get to bed can improve the quality of your sleep, which can be very helpful. Breathing through your nose can help you sleep deeper. So you have uninterrupted sleep disorder breathing, which again affects leptin. Leptin affects your immune system. So all this stuff is connected. That's the beauty of this. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, definitely subscribe, and I'll put links below to some of the articles that we talked about. And I would love to know what you're doing right now to support your body's immune system response to make you harder to kill. That's what we're trying to do. I mean, someone has Steph Gouinet, I think is her name. She has a podcast, Harder to Kill. I thought it was brilliant because that's what we're trying to do. And to characterize Harder to Kill, we're more resilient. One last thing, heart math is another modality that you can do to improve your body's stress response. So very grateful that you're tuning in all the way through. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you in a future episode down the road. Until then, have a good day.